Stuart, I have a question.
Yes.
I can often be very uptight in different situations, and I was wondering what advice you might have about learning to let go and relax.
Look, I mean, look, I speak about this all the time. One of the ways you learn to let go and relax in any situation is through working on yourself over a long period of time, through a deep commitment of, and in your case, Isabel, it's really getting a certain kind of humility about yourself and a certain sense of, that you're not better than everybody else. And you don't have to keep proving yourself to be better than everybody else all the time. That you can let go. You can listen to other people. And even if people are not as smart as you, if you can learn from them, you can defer to them. They can teach you something about life. It will create a sense of humility inside you and a sense of being capable of communicating to people in any situation. That you don't have to be insecure. You don't have to be better than everybody else. You just are what you are. And you listen, learn from them. You defer to them. You let yourself really respect other people. And you don't have to be constantly competing with everybody else and being better than everybody else. It doesn't work. All it does is create tension, mostly inside yourself, because nobody else really gives a shit. And all we do is create this tension inside ourselves, that we are endlessly competing and having to be better than other people and blah, 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 da, da. And yes, the world functions that way. 98% of the people on this planet, live according to the ego and their desire to be better than everybody else. It's all nonsense. Creates madness in the world. And it also does a lot to destroy people. It really hurts you. And then you have problems like what you're asking about. And the answer is humility. The answer is listening to other people, not having to be better than everybody else, not having to have some strange image of how important you are in your own brain, but allow other people to be who they are and learn from them. It'll force you to surrender inside very deeply and let go of all that tension, that competition, that stuff that really just creates nothing but a lot of tension and anxiety amongst people. I mean, who's really better than, I mean, look, we're all born, we live our karma, we die one day. And and what's the point of having to be better than everybody else? To be more important, to create an empire, to be Napoleon, to be Putin, to be, these crazy people in the world, that do nothing but, I don't want to go into it. And yet, all of these people like Putin and Trump and all these crazy people, Netanyahu and all these politicians, I mean, they reflect the madness that goes on inside each and every human being. And the reason why they can control people is because people are constantly competing. They feel inferior to people that are just a bunch of idiots. And people walk around feeling inferior to them. So they're always being threatened, competing, having to be better, having to make more money, having to. have better, crystal and silverware and paintings and blah, 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 and all this stuff where we have endlessly competing with the Joneses and creating a lot of madness inside ourselves. Doesn't work. Be who one is. Love yourself. Like yourself. Learn from whatever you experience in your life. Get free of yourself that way. And then every treasure that you're supposed to have in life will come to you. It all comes to you. You're supposed to have a lot of money, you'll have a lot of money. But then you're going to have a great test of how do I have a spiritual life with a lot of money? It's I mean, they say, a camel can go through an eye of a needle before a rich man. That's what they say, and it's true. And one of the things I just absolutely was amazed that Rudy had a lot of money. He was very, I mean, he wasn't, Bezos rich, but he was, he had money. He had buildings in Manhattan. He had owned a lot of real estate. And yet I was absolutely astonished when I would sit with him, his capacity to be free of it, not to be trapped by the finances of his life. It was a great lesson to me. And then he would tell me over and over again, you can have, but you have to be free of what you have. You can have intelligence, but you really got to be free of it. Otherwise, it's like a prison. You can have gifts, artistic gifts, musical gifts, but you got to be free of them. Otherwise, they become a trap. And then the real gifts come, spirit, higher energy, and they manifest in your life according to what your karma, you know, is and what you need to do to work out that karma. And then we're not made crazy by not having as much money as the next guy, or not having a relationship, not having a job that we really like. Understand? Whatever we do in the world somehow is given to us. I remember once Rudy asked me to clean a showcase. Never forget this as long as I lived. And I was in a pretty shitty mood that day. So I went and I said, okay, I started cleaning and I did such a terrible job cleaning that showcase. It was worse than when I started cleaning it. And he looked at me and he got very upset at me. He said, is that how is that what you're like? Is that how you treat life? It gets worse when you do a job. It was an incredible education for me. I think, Stuart, whatever you do, if you're the janitor, be the best janitor that the world has ever known. If you're the CEO of the company, be the best CEO. Do it with an open heart, with love, with caring for the people that work around you, with gratitude. If you're going to clean a showcase, clean it. Don't mess it up. Do a conscious job of cleaning something. Does anyone have a question? Anyone else have a question I would like to ask? I mean, this is such a real thing, and it's such an insanity that lives in our world today. This whole thing of being made to feel inferior because we don't think we're as good as anyone else. And we get all tense inside, having to, and usually we kind of mess it up, because of the tension. I mean, when I was younger, I had a very deep insecurity about spending time with wealthy people and people that were really successful. And then when I was in the art business and I was running galleries, I mean, all my clients were really wealthy people. Otherwise, I couldn't buy the art. And I had to learn and to discover that they were just human beings. They were just human beings. And not being intimidated by their superior wealth, enabled me to deal with them like human beings and to run a successful business. I didn't have to be better than them. I didn't have to compete with them. I just had to be myself. I used to have these, conductors and theater people and movie stars would come to my gallery and, sit and bask in the energy of that place. It was unbelievable. I mean, Chris can tell you she was there. I remember once Chris and I was sitting in a restaurant, on Japanese restaurant, and some guy walks in and I say, "Hey, come on, sit down, have lunch with us." Sat down and had lunch with us. And we're talking and and afterwards I said, "Chris, you just had lunch with," and she said, "I had just had lunch with Richard Gere." She didn't even know it. It was really funny. Remember that, Chris? I'll never forget it.
It was really funny.
It was really funny. I mean, it was just a human being, they're not these superstars and crazy, they're just people. And we don't have to prove anything to them. We just have to be ourselves. Get centered in the third chakra, develop the chi, the power inside, and you just be yourself. And people will love you. I don't care who they are. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
Stuart, I have a question, Bob Sink.
Yes, Bob.
You've spoken many times that Rudy could get really angry, and um,
Yeah.
and I don't understand how that he was able to. I mean, he could do that and not be drained of anything.
Rudy would get pissed off, and 30 seconds later, it was all gone. It was all gone. Sometimes I get pissed off, and I've learned now how in 20 seconds later, it's all gone. It's gone. He never hung on to it. And you knew when he was pissed off at you, he was doing it because he loved you. And he wanted you to get your life straightened out, to stop being a schmuck. And I'll never forget once we came out of a movie, Rudy and I, and we needed to get a taxi. Go get a taxi. And he was all upset about, get a taxi, get it. He was yelling at me, get a taxi, stop shutting around, get a taxi. We got to get back to the house. So I went and finally got a taxi, came back, and he was all smiles. It was like he was never upset. Gave me a big hug, and he said, "Oh, great, we got a taxi. Let's go home." I mean, it would last 10 seconds, and it was gone. I mean, he'd get upset at his mother, and 20 minutes later, give her a diamond ring, and love her. I mean, it was an amazing thing to learn why hold on to it? Why torture yourself with being upset with other people? Yeah, sometimes it's required because people do stupid things and you got to set them straight. Like not cleaning that showcase. He had to set me straight. 5 minutes later, he was hugging me and giving me meditation classes and couldn't do enough to make sure that Stuart Perrin grew and transformed his life. So it's not that, it's like the problem is people get upset and they hang on to it for 3 months. And there's no forgiving that other person, instead of, all right, it's finished with. It was last moment. Why am I hanging on to this nonsense? Let it go. And Rudy was a master at that. He would get pissed off at you, and 10 minutes later, he was hugging you and giving you meditation classes and, doing everything he can under the sun to help you to grow as a human being. Didn't hang on to it. Let it go. Okay. I was angry. Finished. Gone. Next. Let's go get a hot dog. It's true. It's like the Second Avenue Deli. They get a Frank with the works. You go down here and get hot dogs before meditation class. When he once told the meditation class, I'll never forget it, he said, look, if you don't want to take the Shakti, he said, I really don't care. I'll go to a Chinese restaurant and I'll give it to the waiter. If you all are not sitting here and opening and taking the Shakti, I'll go there and give it to the waiter. Somebody's going to take it. So stop being stupid. Take the energy, open, receive it. Don't fight it. Don't have to be better than it. Open and receive it. He said, you don't have to like me. It's pretty hard not to, but you didn't have to like him. You said, look, I'm not running for Miss America here. These exact words. Take the Shakti. You're here to receive the Shakti, not to like and dislike and right and wrong, judge. Take the Shakti. Receive the Shakti. That's what a teacher does, transmits the Shakti. You don't have to like the teacher. I mean, he spent 13 years with Muktananda. It was like a nightmare for him to go there. He's the only person in the world I've ever met who can break me down. And he went because he needed to grow. He needed to break himself down to get past himself. 13 years. So when I hear people complain, I say, I don't even listen, I don't even listen. And I'm not saying this because I didn't see it. I saw it with my own eyes. What used to go on? And I even asked him, I said, why do you do this? Why don't you just, he said, Stuart, I've never met anyone who's able to break me down. He can do it. And when he breaks me down, no matter what he puts me through, I have only one answer, and that is I have to go to God. I have to grow spiritually. I mean, that was an education for me. Does anyone else have a question they would like?
Stuart,
Okay.
I have another question.
Yes.
So I assume it's a parallel that it's our job to use life to break ourselves down.
Yes. Well, you got me. You come here all the time. I'm pretty good at it, but you also have life. You have life. And really, life, I always say it, the greatest guru is life. It will break you down every step of the way. And then you can't get pissed off at it. You got to listen to it and learn from it and grow because of it and have gratitude instead of anger, at what life helps you to do. And it does it in every way, financially and relationships and friendships. I mean, look, is there any relationship in the world that doesn't break somebody down? I mean, think about your parents, your husbands, your wives, your girlfriends, your friends. I mean, just to have to be able to relate to somebody, you have to get past yourself. You have to be able to listen to them and learn from them. Life breaks us down. And instead of fighting with it, let it work. Learn how to listen. Learn how to forgive. Big one. And I look, I have a lot of love for everybody that's seated in this class and a lot of gratitude because every single one of you are making it possible for me to grow. And yeah, I might yell at somebody and yeah, 5 minutes later it's gone, you know. And I learned that from my teacher. He called me a schmuck all the time. I really need it. Look at him, and you're such a schmuck. He would point to somebody, look at him and how he's growing, and you're such a schmuck. I remember one day I met him on the steps of the ashram there, and right outside the front door, and comes up to me, gives me a very big hug, and he's just in a very gentle, loving voice. He said, "Just want you to know, Stuart, you have grown so much in your life. You're my favorite." That's what he told me. Brought a tear to my eye. It was real love. How to turn a schmuck into your favorite. Does anyone else have a question? I don't know why people leave. These talks are better than the actual meditation, and why people leave is beyond me. But okay, look, I guess they have something else to do. What to do? Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay, there'll be meditation on Wednesday. Thank you. God bless you all. And, again, Never mind again. I've said it too many times. Bless you all and thank you. And I will see everybody on Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart.